What do you think about Jesus? What do you think about Jesus? What comes to mind when you hear the word Jesus? What are some of the things that you immediately go to when you hear Jesus? You may say freedom. I thought I heard freedom. You may say love. Love. And that's a good description. That's a good word to utilize when we're talking about Jesus. Unfortunately, it's really broad because you see, love could sound like an encouraging word just as much as it may look like a spanking, or feel, for that matter, like a spanking. Have you experienced love both ways? Hopefully you're not married when you're saying that. How about kind? Is Jesus kind? Humble? Loving? He's as kind as to protect a woman that was caught in adultery. Just to turn around and compare a Canaanite woman with a dog. Same guy, Jesus, protects the woman as she's going to be stoned to death. And then almost, not necessarily chronologically, but almost as if in the next breath, he compares a woman with a dog. Salvation. You see? Salvation, you may think all you need is to believe and confess, and you'll be safe. And yet, the rich young ruler needed to give up everything. So I'm going to ask you again, what do you think about Jesus? What is the image that comes to mind when you hear his name? What is the image that immediately forms in your mind as you hear the name of Jesus? Is it the one depicted by the parable that talks about the shepherd that leaves the 99 and goes for the one that is lost? Or is this image the one depicted by the father of the prodigal son that doesn't go after his son? Is not chasing after him. He's not begging him to stay. Instead, he lets him go and lets him find on its own his necessity, what he needs. Which of those in your mind represents better the name of Jesus, or what Jesus is? Where do you get these ideas and images that you form about Jesus? We all have a perception of Jesus. Where do you get this perception from? How do you come up with, this is what Jesus is? This is what Jesus feels like. Where did you get that? I would love to hear that you say from the Bible, only from the Bible. But the reality is that oftentimes we get our idea of Jesus from someone else's revelation, which was not only given in a different time, under different circumstances, for a different purpose. And yet we go and grab that, and now it becomes our perception of Jesus. I believe it was Carl Jung. I don't know who that is, but someone I was reading quoted him, who said this: be aware of an earned wisdom. Be aware of wisdom that you didn't earn. We have to be careful with all of what we allow to determine our beliefs, because sometimes our beliefs are structured, or they're founded, or they're based on 45-second clips of a message. We don't know what the context was. We don't know what the actual message was. All we know is that was a catchy phrase that I really like, and I'm going to allow that to define who Jesus is. And now we have a perception of Jesus that may not be a good one for us. Are you with me? Be aware of wisdom you didn't earn. It's great to hear preachings and messages. It's amazing to read books. It's good to read commentaries, but be careful when you're reading the Bible and you put the commentary beyond or above the Bible. The commentary is not the truth. The Bible is the truth. The commentary is someone's revelation, which may be a blessing to you or may be keeping you from receiving the revelation that God has for you. The moment that you take that commentary as what that word means, you're limiting God to someone else's revelation, what God may wanting to be telling you, giving you, revealing to you something fresh. So let us be aware of where we get these ideas and how is it that we construct who Jesus is. Pastor, are you saying that Jesus is a construction of our mind? Well, you have to think, and it's your mind that you use to think. So no doubt that who you believe Jesus is influenced by what you think. Right? And all of that is influenced by your experiences, by what you have read, by what you have heard. People around you influence what you believe, how do you think. Tell me who you're hanging out with, and I'll tell you who you are. Yes. People you interact with also influence your perception of Jesus. I wonder how many people have walked away from church without actually interacting with Jesus himself. All they did was interact with us, and they walked away from church. See, that pastor was rude to me. And you may think that they should grow up and get a thick skin and stop being a baby. But it'll be really sad that a commentary of a pastor, a comment of a pastor, is the reason why someone thinks so negatively of Jesus. And I get it, we all have bad days. But it shouldn't be where someone walks in here and the usher doesn't care that someone walks in here. It shouldn't be that someone walks in here and a pastor is not loving and kind and humble and serving. People don't see Jesus physically. They see us. And their perception of who Jesus is comes from us. How we respond to how they came dressed that day. Do we look at people in a certain way and immediately approve and say, that's not Sunday's attire? You either have never been to church, or you don't know how to dress to go to church, or you don't have how to dress to go to church. I know that that's not the case in here. And a lot of times when I speak and preach, I'm a little sarcastic, but I know that we have good people in here. But I want us to understand something. Our perception of Jesus comes from the people we hang out with, from who we are surrounded ourselves, who we interact with, right? I wish it was just from here. But we read here and then we see there. We read here and then we see there. And the mix of the two of them influence how we feel about Jesus. All of what you read in the Bible, people around you, your experiences become your knowledge of Him, which is key in properly interacting with Jesus. So what do you think? What do you know about Jesus? If we're all here seeking Jesus, if we're all here going after Him, what is it that you know about Jesus? What do you know about Jesus will set the stage for what happens next. Your perception, your ideas. If you think that Jesus doesn't care how you live your life, that will definitely influence what happens next in your interaction with Jesus. If you think that He doesn't mind you speaking in a certain way, that will definitely influence what happens next. You see, if you think Jesus is not interested in what you watch or what you listen to, that will show in your interaction with Jesus. Your knowledge of God matters. if you want to successfully interact with him. You see, to the woman at the well, it was said, you Samaritans don't know what you worship. You don't know what you worship. As she was asking where it was supposed to be the right place to worship, Jesus tells her, you don't know what you worship. And Paul, to the city of Athens, to the men in Athens, he tells them, you ignorantly worshiping the unknown God. I notice that you worship, but you're ignorant about it. You don't know what you're doing. Do you think that a good perception of Jesus is key in successfully interacting with the Most High God? It is. And we're starting a new series today to help us with that. Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. John 14 and 6. Do you have it? Jesus said to him, after asking, I don't know where you're going. I don't know how to get there. I don't know. Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. The Bible, as you know, doesn't have a lot of absolute statements. A lot of things are left to the open. God can heal you this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, and this way. It's not an absolute. He doesn't always heal this way. He doesn't always heal this way. He doesn't always act this way, right? But there are a few things that is very, very absolute, specific. There is no other name but Jesus, right? And he says, I am the way. He doesn't say, I am a way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. That, I believe, is something that you should know about Jesus. In one occasion, Jesus is depicting himself as the door. Sounds like a way to me, right? The door. I am the life. I want to share with you three facts. Three facts. I don't know if it's going to be obvious what those facts are. Three facts that you have to deal with when interacting with Jesus. Three facts that you will have to deal with if you are going to interact with Jesus. Everyone in here is seeking Jesus. Amen? Everyone in here is seeking Jesus. But I wonder if you are certain of what you will find at the end of your search. I wonder if you're certain, if you know exactly what you will find at the end of the search. If you're seeking Jesus, what is it that you think you'll find when you get there and he's there? You're meeting with him. What is it that you think you will see there at the end? Is it maybe a restored marriage? Is it maybe a new business, a new company? Is it maybe healing, restoration? Is it maybe ministry? What is it that you hope to find at the end of that search, at the end of that journey, when you find Jesus? And it's a genuine question because a lot of people seek Jesus for the wrong reasons. And he rebuked them in one occasion. He said, you seek me because I feed you and you're full. Not because of what I do or what I am about. So, but I have good news for you. Just in case you were here for the wrong reasons, I have good news for you. Just in case you don't know or you're not certain of what it is that you will find at the end of this search, I have good news for you. Regardless of why you're seeking Jesus, when you find him, you will have to interact with who he is and what he is about. It doesn't matter if you're looking for him for the wrong reasons. You will be forced to interact with what he is. Meaning, when you find Jesus and you find Jesus for the wrong reasons, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you found him, and now you'll have the opportunity to interact with him in the right way, how it's supposed to be. Are you excited for that? I am. That sounds to me like I'm winning. Like, even if I'm going there for the wrong reasons, that I can still walk out of that winning, that is an amazing, amazing opportunity for me. And I want you to go to Mark chapter 5, verse 21 through 43. Regardless of whether you were seeking Jesus for the right reasons or not, you will inevitably be forced to experience him in this matter: the way, the truth, and the life. If you're seeking Jesus for the wrong reasons and you find him, which is very, very probable that you will, ask Saul, who became Paul. You will find him, okay? If you're seeking him, you will find him. And when you do, you will find him at his true essence: the way, the truth, and the life. Do you have it? Yes, you do. Now, I want to apologize ahead of time. Miriam is not here. She's usually the one that keeps me on time. So I'm out of time today. Now, when Jesus had crossed over again by boat to the other side, a great multitude gathered to him, and he was by the sea. A great multitude gathered around him. So often we find Jesus surrounded by a great multitude. A lot of people, many, always surrounded by many, but somehow almost every story where he's surrounded by many focuses on a few. The setting starts the same. There was a lot of people that gathered, but there was one short man that couldn't see Jesus. So he climbed a tree to be able to see him. So the story goes from a lot of people, a big crowd, to one person. The story zooms in on one person. We hear that the disciples are annoyed because this woman is shouting out to Jesus, pleading for mercy because her daughter is sick. And they say, hey, would you please dismiss her because she's making us look bad in front of all these people, right? So the story goes from a lot of people around Jesus to the Canaanite woman. The story goes from a house that is full of people, some of which are already in front of Jesus, listening to him preaching, and yet the story focuses on 4 men that are carrying down a paralytic from the roof. Every story where you hear a multitude is there. Somehow the story goes and zooms in, focuses in on a few. Same thing at churches. A multitude will gather together, and then the angel of the Lord stirs the water. And some quickly jump because maybe something will happen there, while others stay as spectators. And in that case, it was a physical pool, Bethesda, where they will have to jump in. In this place, you have to jump in, and to jump in, you can do it where you are. Right where you are, you can jump in. Literally, you can just go like this, and you're in. I felt like I jumped like 2 feet tall. Every one of these stories, we find a multitude around Jesus. Somehow, it focuses on a few. It closes in on a few. You see, this is amazing. Because on the one side, the fact that there is a crowd doesn't keep God from noticing you. And that is amazing. That every story that we hear about Jesus surrounded by the multitude, someone is singled out. That is amazing, because that means that even if you're here right now in the midst of the multitude and you're thinking, no, I don't think God is going to pay attention to me, the chances are that he will, because God somehow always manages to find that one person and not focuses on the entire multitude necessarily, but singles that one out. That God can be aware of your situation and your pain is amazing. The suffering and how desperately you need him, that he sees those things, that he sees your heart. You see, at a church setting, sometimes we have 20. You could have 30, 40, it could be hundreds of people in a place. And to know that out of all of them, God can take a moment and deal with you directly is amazing. It's amazing. But here's another side of it. It's amazing the fact that he can single you out from the crowd. But I feel like knowing that also means that the ball is on your court. That he pretty much says, I'm here. I'm here. There is a multitude. I want to see you. I'm here. I want to notice you. I'm here. So you also carry a responsibility. I remember I said to God, I was praying to God, and I felt like it was time that I was old enough to have a wife, and that it was time for me, right? So I said, Lord, all you have to do is just show me the house. What house she's in, and I'll go and knock. And if no one opens, I'll bust the door open, and I'll get in there and get what belongs to me. I know my in-laws probably didn't like that, right? But I just needed God to show me which house it was. And then when I saw the curls, I was like, yep, that's the house. That's the house. Just so you know, I'm talking about my wife and only wife, because you don't see the curls now. When I met her, she had curly hair. Okay? So all I needed was confirmation from God. And then you move on. So all you need is confirmation that God will show up. And then everything else is up to you to be able to actually get there, get on the tree, come from the roof, do whatever you need to do, but make sure that you seize your moment, that the opportunity presented before you, that you take it. All these people did natural things that activated the supernatural. None of them did something that you and I are not able to do. None of them did. Getting on the roof is a natural thing to do. Anybody can do it. You just need some determined friends, and you can do it. So, there are things you and I need to do to better position ourselves. You see, this man had a bigger chance of being healed if he was in front of Jesus than if he was all the way outside. I think there has to come a point where you don't care about what people say to you, because you know that he's there, and even if somebody compares you with a dog, you're not going to stop. You're going to keep going until you see your miracle. I think there needs to come a point in time that you are willing to say, you know what? This looks difficult. It doesn't look like I can get it, but I'm not willing to wait. He's here. I'm going to get in, and I'm going to knock until he opens the door. So, this is where we find the person we're going to be looking at today. Would you please put the next verse? A multitude. How is it that this person is going to be singled out again? And behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue, and please remember his title or his position, came, Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell on his feet. Next verse. And begged him earnestly, saying, my little daughter lies at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she will live. This is Jairus, okay? And there is a significance to why we're given his position and what he was. This is so that you notice that circumstances around you do contribute to the kind of experience that you will have with Jesus. Circumstances around you do contribute to how you approach Jesus. Jairus was in pain, in anguish. I believe in other passages of this same story, it is said that she was 12 years old, the girl. Can you imagine that? You're a 12-year-old girl laying at home at the point of death. No doubt he was in anguish. He was in severe pain, so severe that made him question everything he thought he knew. Everything he thought he knew, he questioned. Can I tell you that that is one of the best places to be before Jesus? A place where you question everything that you thought you knew. What is everything that he thought, that we thought, or that he thought he knew? Well, he was a religious leader. His group, his band, all of the rulers of the synagogues did not like Jesus, except for a couple. And when Nicodemus wants to approach Jesus, guess how he did it? In the night. You don't go in the light of the day. He did. He came to a point where he challenged and questioned everything that he thought he knew. Pastor, we're Christians, we're not Pharisees. So that word should not be for us. I don't know if you know, but we also get stuck. We also get stuck on things that we know. And there are moments, the circumstances around us will push us to a place that we have to acknowledge or at least question everything we thought we knew. When we interact with Jesus, we are forced to deal with this reality, with this fact of Jesus. He is the way. He is the way. You see, for him, he had to stop for a moment and question his way. Because his way and Jesus' way were not the same way. So before he fully interacted with Jesus, he needed to decide which way he was going to take. You see, a lot of people will be spectators. They will be watching like the multitude. But it takes for you to do something bold like that, like make a decision. You know what? It is not my ways. I will have to actually render my ways, what I believe, what I thought it was, and obey and listen and abide and go under his way if there is going to be a full interaction. Meaning, you dealing with Jesus will be forced to understand there is a way. And by that, I'll explain what I mean in a second. So, two things I want to highlight out of that moment. If you had a way outside of Jesus, when you meet Jesus, there is no question of which way is bad. There are two ways. He is the way or your way. When you meet Jesus, which way do you think is wrong? If you're already on a way, you're already on a road, you're already going somewhere, and you encounter Jesus, and he is the way, you will be forced to question everything you thought you knew because you found the way. And when you realize that you're questioning everything that you thought you knew, you will have to humble yourself and run before him and get on your knees and praise him and beg him and ask him for help and tell him, Jesus, I need you. If you had a way outside of Jesus, it's the wrong way. And I'm not going to spend too much time on it. We just know it's the wrong way. Jesus didn't say, I am a way. I am the way. The second thing I want to highlight on that is, if you were not on the way, if you were not on the road, that means you were idle. If you were idle, and you had an encounter with Jesus, then you are encountered with the fact that you can't stay where you are. that there is a way, that there is a road that you have to follow. If anyone wants to go after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. There is a way, there is a road that you have to take, and you have to embrace, and you have to get going. But I got to get going quickly because this. Please have the right perspective of Jesus. If Jesus is in your life, let me go back. Jesus in your life is not a station. It's not a place. Jesus in your life, when you have an encounter with Jesus, you realize that He is a road that you are to follow. He is the road that you are to follow. That means that you are to be moving every season of your life. You are to be moving. You are to be growing. You are to be learning. You are to be maturing. You are to be building character, serving, ministering, loving. All of these things that project who Jesus is. So Jairus chooses the way. He gives up. He gives up. That's what he did. The moment that he went and kneeled before Jesus, he made a decision of what was the way he chose. Because after that, probably his boss will be like, yeah, you're not coming back here. You got to stay on that way. Yeah, his boss was smart, not like us. We think we can go both ways. His boss said you can't go both ways. If you're going after that lunatic, that's who they thought he was, Jesus, then you can't be here. So choose which way. Please, you that are here, choose the way. Amen. You can be on both ways. You got to pick. You see, Sunday mornings, you can't choose between laundry and being at church. There's no way. There's no way that you have to choose between going grocery shopping on Sunday morning or going to church. There's no way that you should exchange or trade going out to the club in the night on Saturday instead of going to church in the morning. There's no way. It doesn't work. Pick. And Jesus, you have to have the right perspective about Jesus. He's not playing around. He's not saying, listen, there are many ways to get to where I am, right? Pick whichever one you want to. No, he's saying, I am the way. If you're truly seeking me, I am the way. There is no other way. It doesn't have to be Bethesda. If you don't like a pastor here, or if you don't like something that he said, it doesn't have to be Bethesda. But the way is only one way. It could be a different church. It could be a different ministry. But there's only one way. Whatever ministry you choose, it will be the exact same way. It will be Jesus. Right. And let me tell you something about this way, this road that you will engage as we continue in this journey with Jairus. Once they get going on this journey, verse 24 and 25, please. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to pass this point. That's fine. We'll stay on this point. So Jesus went with him, and again, a great multitude followed him. Next verse, please. Now, again, a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years. Again, the same setting, a great multitude, and all of a sudden the story goes to one person. Right? But let's go back a little bit, and I want to mention something that it's so quickly in this journey, that appears so fast in this journey. Jairus makes a decision. He decides, this is no longer the way. I don't care that I lose my job. I don't care whatever happens here. I'm going in the right way, which is Jesus. And now he engages in this journey, in this road. He's going after Jesus, and there is a miracle that he's waiting for at the end of his journey. Right? And immediately as he embraces the journey, as he gets ongoing in this journey, there is an interruption. Immediately, there's an interruption. The story, it's interrupted. Because it's no longer about Jairus anymore. Now we're talking about a woman who had an issue for 12 years. And then the story goes on to describe how much in pain she was, all the suffering. She spent all that she had all the years that she tried getting this thing fixed? I feel like we're about to learn something about Jesus right now. And I don't hear anybody thrilled about it. Who in here likes interruptions? It's almost as if Jesus is dealing with you and telling you how amazing your life is going to be and how he's going to take you in the kind of ministry that you will be able to develop and all these things. And all of a sudden, in the middle of that conversation that is so exciting for you, he stops to deal with somebody else. I can only imagine what you will be feeling, because that's probably what I will be feeling. Jesus, can you just finish a thought that you were saying? I thought I heard you said about a house. I don't know if that was true, a house. Maybe it was a house. Maybe it was not a house. Maybe it was a mansion. I don't know. Maybe I got the words crossed here or there. But can you finish talking about me, please? Right. Who in here likes it when they talk about you? In a good way. In a good way. In a good way. Not behind your back and no. You in a good way. Well, the story is interrupted. Not a good feeling. I will say, what? What do you mean my story is interrupted? I just made a life decision. I gave everything up for you, Jesus. I say bye to my career. I gave all of those things, all of those dreams. I gave all that out because you said you were the way. You were the road. And now that I decided to go on this road, immediately as my story is now being unfolded, there is an interruption to my story. And abruptly, if I should mention how it was. And this is where we have to deal with the second fact about Jesus. This is where we have to interact with the second reality about Jesus, the second essence of Jesus. He is the way that you engage in. And as soon as you engage in that way, you will have to deal with the truth. The truth. Who in here loves interruptions? You don't like interruptions, do you? Let me tell you something about interruptions. You remember the storm that the disciples went through and Jesus was sleeping? Interruption. They were on the way somewhere, interruption. Listen to interruptions. Interruptions on the way. Who's the way? Jesus. Interruptions in Jesus. Once you've made a decision, interruptions in that journey, in that road, are always calculated. Interruptions are always calculated. When you are in his way and you experience interruptions, they are calculated. Which means the power of the interruption is calculated, like that storm. It didn't destroy the ship. They thought it would. It didn't destroy the ship. The power of the interruption is calculated. The consequences of the interruption are calculated. And the lessons of the interruption are calculated. And that's what I want to stay with today. Remember, this is just an introduction. We'll go back to every one of this in the next 4 weeks. God uses interruptions on the way in Jesus to deal with truth in us. He uses interruptions to deal with truth in us. Truth that often we're not willing to admit. We're not willing to recognize in our lives. So, here is the interruption, okay? Verse 35. Let me give you what leads to this. Jesus, the Bible describes this woman that's been sick for a long time. And it gives us a description of the pain, the suffering that she had. And it also says what she was thinking. She said, you know what? I don't think I can have a moment with him where he can pray for me. But if I just have an instance where I can touch his garments, I will be healed. The Bible is describing all of this. And he's taking several verses. Somewhere around 10 verses to get here. I imagine if I was Jairus, it would have felt like 2 years. My daughter is sick. Every second counts. And yet, you're entertaining the people with the story that doesn't belong to my story. It doesn't pertain to me. And yet we're wasting time. And so now we have verse 35. While he was still speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house and said, your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any farther? So I don't want you to go on and keep reading. Stop right there. You may know the story. Just stop right there for a second. Ignore what happens later, what happens after. Because God brings us interruptions in our lives, not for fun, not just because. There is something, there is an agenda. With God, there is always an agenda. So these interruptions serve a purpose. A lesson in these interruptions can always be found. And so we find ourselves here, and I want you to go on a journey with me, and I want you to place yourselves instead of Jairus. You started a journey on something that you believe is the way. Remember, this was the way for you, and now you started a journey. This is the way. You start on this journey. And all of a sudden, as you're going in this journey, waiting for your miracle, waiting for your promise, there comes a point where things seem to get stuck, right? You're not progressing anymore. You're not moving along anymore. And instead of things getting better, you come to what you think is a stop. I want you to think all that could be going through his mind at that moment. The feelings, the emotions that he was going through in that situation. Are you kidding me? Maybe I wouldn't have voiced it like that. Maybe I wouldn't have gone to Jesus and said, for real? You couldn't deal with this later? Are you not aware of what is happening right here? Here's what I see in that situation. Because situations as uncomfortable, as painful as that, they do several things to us. One of them is they really pull what you may not be willing to agree is inside of you. I am sure that in his mind, while he was dealing with the situation, he was thinking, I don't understand you, Jesus. This woman is a Gentile. She's unclean. My daughter, she's 12 years old. I am a son of Abraham. And yet, you're dealing with that instead of helping me? As we were worshiping earlier, I couldn't help but to think that God was speaking to me. That in my journey, as I've chosen a way, I find myself looking at my situation around and hearing that things are dead. And then true things come out. Things that maybe I've been hiding. Maybe I haven't been willing to admit that they're there. But guess what? When things are that crucial in our lives, everything surfaces. Real feelings come out. Things that you actually feel come out. I was reading a book not too long ago that really brought me to my knees. And I had to say, God, forgive me. Because I didn't realize that I was covering these things, that I was hiding these things, that I was not admitting, that I was not letting the truth come out. You see, God allows things to happen that are painful in our lives, that put us in situations that feel like everything is dying inside of us. You know what He's doing? He's breaking us. He's breaking everything inside of us that is not according to what He needs to use, to what will be usable for His glory and for His kingdom. And until we get to that place where we are broken, completely broken, where there is nothing left of the old ways, we won't be able to experience life. I don't know about you, but I feel like he thought when they said this, when they said, your daughter is dead, I feel like he just lost motion. He just lost the notion of time. Everything felt too long. Moments like this will expose the truth in your life. What's at the end of this journey searching for Jesus, seeking Jesus? You see, when you interact with Jesus, He will allow circumstances in our lives that will be like a light shining on us to reveal what is not pleasing to Him. I don't have time anymore. He is the truth. He is the way. And He is the life. But we don't stop on verse 35. I'm not going to leave you there. I'm not going to leave you in a moment where you're broken down. He doesn't leave us there. But I want you to hear this. As painful as it is, as a living sacrifice, don't jump off of the altar. Stay there. When He's breaking you down, stay there. Let Him bring everything to the surface. Repent. Ask Him to forgive you. Ask Him to heal you. All of those things that are not pleasing to God that come to the surface because of the difficult circumstances around us, let it be exposed and let Him deal with it. Verse 36. I'll just say two things and I'm closing with this. We will come back to this. And as soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, He said to the ruler of the synagogue, do not be afraid, only believe. He is the way, the truth, and the life. Though God may seem busy dealing with others, I love this image. Because He says, while He was still speaking to the lady, so He's focused on somebody else. He's forgotten about you according to you. He's dealing with her. And you are broken inside. Admit it. It's eating you alive. It's eating you. It's fighting everything. Everything that is unclean is being killed in this moment. If you stay there, if you don't run away, if you don't quit, if you linger after you heard what you heard, if you linger. While He was speaking to this lady, He hears those things. And it's almost as if He's not done here. Now He puts a pause in here and says, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just believe. So, if you want life, you need to choose what you hear. If you want life, you need to choose what you hear. They came and they told her, your daughter is dead. He heard that. He heard it. And I'm sure that it was eating him alive. Especially when what you're choosing what to hear and you compare both of them, one of them doesn't seem to be as good as the other one. You see, because when the enemy comes, he gives you facts. He gives you, hey, she's dead. Specific. It's very specific. It's loud and it's clear. And when Jesus speaks, it's not always loud and clear and not specific. Jesus didn't say, she's not dead. Jesus didn't say, she hasn't died. He said, don't be afraid. God, why are you doing this to me? You know what I heard. It would be a lot easier to stay with what you say if it was as loud and as specific as that. But instead, you just simply say, don't be afraid. And I'm supposed to take that to be enough. To see the challenge ahead of me, to see the difficulty, to see the impossibility, to see how it's dead. And you're not saying it's not dead. All you're saying is don't be afraid. That can mean anything. That can mean that she will be dead and you will give me the strength to get up again. It could mean that you will bring her back to life. What do I do with that? You believe and you stay. If you want life, you choose what you hear. And then you choose what you speak. Because when Jesus addresses them, he didn't say, where is the dead girl? She didn't refer to her as dead. She referred to her as sleeping. You know that there is power for life and for death in your tongue. You choose what you speak.